Similar to the internet on the mobile, everything which was in the non-internet and non-mobile world moved to the internet. So, things like the newspaper went online, shopping went online, education went online, art went online, travel went online. So every single industry went onto the internet. Same with the mobile. Every single industry went onto mobile. If it didn't have an app or there wasn't an app for it, then there's an opportunity to build an app for it. So it's the same with the token and blockchain world. If there isn't a decentralized app or a token for a particular industry or a particular business, then there is an opportunity. If there's a supermarket which is centrally owned and centrally run, it's an opportunity for you to create a supermarket which is decentralized in ownership and decentralized in the way it operates. So we think this is going to ignite so much innovation, and it's such a big opportunity. And we think we're very close to that. What it takes is just a few case studies, a few hundred case studies of projects which do this. And then people are going to go, wow, I'm going to do that too. I'm going to apply it to my existing business, and then it's going to really catapult.
This is season 2 of Voices of the Data Economy, a podcast supported by Ocean Protocol Foundation. We bring to you the voices shaping the data economy and challenging it at the same time. Listen to founders, tech policy experts, and pioneers in impact investing, all sharing their relationship with data. Hello and welcome, and today we have not one but 2 guests with us, Michael and Yip. The one thing common about both of them is that they are both founders of Unit. Unit is a blockchain project built with Polkadot ecosystem. They are also both advocates of token economy and how tokens could probably contribute to the democratization of data and help in all the inequality in the society. Michael is based in Bali, Indonesia, and Yip is in Munich. So, before we begin, it's important to talk about what is their relationship with data. So we'll start with you, Michael. Since you have experience in developing apps, and you also developed the Android app for WikiLeaks at the age of 16, it would be interesting to know from your perspective, how do you look at the concept of data ownership? And how do you think it has changed in the last few years as all these companies continue to develop products?
Yeah, it's a great point. I think, data is really the underlying value for almost any Web 2.0 or Web 1.0 project or business. So if you think about the likes of Netflix, or you think of Facebook or Google or Amazon, what makes these companies extremely, extremely valuable is its data. And, mentioning about what's coming next in terms of the data revolution, the cool thing about Web 3.0 or the blockchain revolution is where the people have access to their own data, and they're not bounded by these walls and gates that these big tech companies have. So it's really power back to the people, and that's what makes me so excited.
And Yip, what is your definition of data ownership, and how do you look at it? And particularly in your role, do you think you are working towards democratizing data in any way?
Well, we are working towards solving the inequitability problem, right? This has how do you solve inequity by helping people to gain ability to contribute to shaping the economy of tomorrow? I think that's a way of showing democracy, helping everyone in the world to be able to navigate this entire world. And thereby, one way of how to do that is education, right? So what we do is in Unit, and in particular my role in Unit Masters, is to provide education in a way that is efficient and effective, so that in a very structured and fast way, everyone can participate in that new, I would say, El Dorado of vast opportunities that we're building in the Web3 economy. And how does it work? Well, everywhere you have a lot of data. Internet basically provides a lot of free data to everyone, but data alone is not insight, right? Data needs to be clustered, and clustered into clusters of data, which are information. And then information needs to actually be connected so it can become an insight. And the moment a person owns the process of making insights for themselves out of a bunch of random data, that is the moment they, in my view, own the data and own, like, have a passport to shaping, not only consuming, but contributing to the world of tomorrow. And so basically, looking back at data ownership, data democracy, we actually also need to look at the skills and help everyone who wants to contribute in a way that is meaningful to them, but in a way also that no one is left behind. So a world of zero exclusivity driven by the ownership of data and the ability to connect data into insights.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you spoke about two important things, education and also about, what you're doing at UNIT. And we'll dive deeper into that also in the subsequent part of the podcast. But one thing probably that we've never spoken about this in podcast before is the role of tokens and token economy as such. And both of you, particularly you, Michael, are a big advocate of token economy, and you've spoken about it and you feel it's going to solve a lot of problems, inequality, etc. So just for an overview, give us a view of what token economy is and why do you think it's going to solve these problems?
Yep, great question. So the token economy is super exciting because it basically refers to an economy which is driven by tokens. And what are tokens? So, the concept of tokens is super new. It's kind of similar to, 30 years people discussing what is this thing called the internet, So tokens at the moment, when people think about coins or tokens, they think about Bitcoin, they think about Ethereum, they think about, the blockchain. But, how we view tokens is that they're just a way for value to flow around the economy much more efficiently and freely, and a way to share and distribute value in a more equitable way. So Yip mentioned and alluded to the point earlier about solving inequity, or creating a more equitable and why is the world not as equitable now as it should be? So we believe that currently the way the world works is the people who benefit from businesses, organizations doing well are the founders and the investors. So the people who start companies and the people who invest in them. And then the other side, the customers and the employees. Without them, businesses, organizations, they won't be able to thrive or survive. Without the employees, you've got nobody who's working on operating and making the project work. Without the customers, the employees, the founders, and the investors have no customer base to provide products and services to. However, when a project like Uber, becomes worth $80 billion on the stock exchange, none of it goes to the 2 million drivers. So the really exciting vision of the token economy is where everything in the world has a token, whether it's your local restaurant, it's your friend who's an artist, it's your friend who runs an agency, it's this project that you read about in the newspaper, it has a token, you can buy into it. You have an idea for a project, you create a token. So that is, I guess, a really quick sum up of the token economy and why we believe in it to be the future.
And would you like to add something, Yip? And probably also on where does UNIT really come into the picture? Because you help in launching tokens as one of the things that you do at UNIT. So where does really UNIT come into the picture? How are you helping the token economy evolve?
So just to build on what Michael said earlier about the token as a container that enables the flow of economic transactions in a world where every stakeholder who helps contribute value can have a fair share in it. Right, that's the token economy and the idea behind it. And the token economy is also, or actually UNIT is what is providing the tech infrastructure on the base layer to enable that internet of value to come to life. So how we're actually doing it is we have different features inbuilt on the tech layer, but maybe I think it's better, Michael, if you share about it as being our CTO behind driving, building the tech infrastructure.
Most definitely. So I guess, like what is UNIT? Like what is the UNIT network? What is the token economy? How does it work? So we think it comes in phases. So, a lot of people who know about cryptocurrencies or tokens, they think, what should I build on? Or I want to make a token. What do I make it on? Or I want to build a decentralized application. What do I build it on? And, we think this technology of the blockchain is going to become commoditized. And what that basically means is if you look at the innovation of technology over time, you go back 40, 50 years, people used to talk about, which hardware were they going to get. Were they going to get HP? Were they going to get a Compaq? Were they going to get a Dell? Like which hardware? Then, the hardware didn't matter. We moved to the operating system. So it's like, should I use Windows? Should I use Mac? Should I use Linux? Should I use Ubuntu? And then, everything moved to the internet. It didn't matter the desktop software, the operating system. It all went to the web. And then soon enough, it moved from the web to the mobile. So it didn't matter on the web because it's all like iPhone or Android. And what we see next is, at the moment, people are like trying to say, hey, my blockchain is better than this blockchain because it's got so many transactions a second. It's more decentralized, blah, blah, blah. What we're confident is going to happen next is going to become commoditized, meaning that it's not going to matter which chain you issue your token on. It's not going to matter which platform you're using, to put data on. It's just going to become commoditized. And the cool thing about the blockchain is that it's decentralized. So the idea that, even though Yip and myself, we're the co-founders alongside our extremely passionate and talented team, we aren't in a position to be able to take the whole thing down. So if we changed as individuals or we changed as, people, as the co-founders, it wouldn't be in our position to change it in a way which suits us or is putting in jeopardy the community. It's kind of similar to like a language. If let's say you came out of a language and you taught this language to the two of us and we taught it to a bunch of people, you couldn't just turn please into a really vulgar word. You've taught it to us, we understand that to be the case. Or mathematics, it's kind of like once we agree on a truth, or we agree on symbols, then it reaches this consensus. It isn't down to a particular individual to be able to change it. So I hope that was a good analogy.
Yeah. And also, we always try to talk also in beginner language, sort of, in our podcast. And there might be a lot of people who are hearing the term Polkadot for the first time. So, and you are building this on Polkadot, right? So if you could just give people who are not familiar with Polkadot, what is it and why Polkadot?
Most definitely. So I guess, a lot of people have heard about Bitcoin. If you haven't heard about Bitcoin, Bitcoin is like a decentralized bank. It's a decentralized way of transferring value and storing value. It started about 11 years ago, 2008, 2009, after the global financial crisis. And then a few years later, Vitalik Buterin, he wanted to improve Bitcoin, but they didn't let him improve Bitcoin. So he launched Ethereum, and Ethereum talks about smart contracts. It's like decentralized payments is cool, like what Bitcoin offers. What's even better is building other decentralized things, like a decentralized social network, a decentralized news platform, a decentralized marketplace. So Ethereum basically let everyone build on top of this one. It's called general purpose blockchain, this general purpose computer. But then the unfortunate thing is everyone's trying to do everything on this one single highway, on this one blockchain. So the cool thing about Polkadot, it's from the person who built Solidity, the coding language for Ethereum, and he said, if I was to build this again, how would I do better? And he thought, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make a way for you to build your own Ethereum, and when you build your own Ethereum, on top of this thing called Polkadot, we're gonna connect your version, your blockchain to another blockchain. We're gonna create application-specific blockchains, so blockchains which work for a particular application. So in the case of the Unit Network, we believe that we're the most advanced and simple token builder. So we're the blockchain for the token economy, and we basically allow tokens to be created and allow them to thrive.
Okay. And coming back to token economy, like how big is it right now? And how many tokens can I really expect in the future? And how will I ever assess that which token to really go for, which is legit, and what are the answers to these questions?
It's a great question. So how big is the token economy? So, I guess what are tokens, coins and tokens are quite similar. The difference between a coin and a coin has its own blockchain. But if you look at tokens, it's about 8,000 tokens. And if you count, the crypto market cap or the token market cap, it's, between $2 to $3 trillion, which, sounds like a lot of money, but it's only, the biggest company in the world is Apple, which is about 2 to 3 trillion. Tesla, just crossed over being worth 1 trillion. That's just one company. And if you think about the number of people and the number of companies in the world, you think, a lot of governments are way bigger than companies. Companies like a subset of a government. So There are about 7-8 billion people in the world. We think each person is going to have a token. We think more than having a personal token, they're going to have, a token for their community, a token for, the different businesses and projects. So, we think there's going to be, 10 billion tokens, or like 8 to 9 to 10 billion tokens. And, we're at a stage now, there's 8,000 tokens. So, if this was a party, the music hasn't turned on, there's, nobody here. We're just such early days. So when you look at like $2.5 trillion, it sounds like a lot, but it's really, just scratching the surface in terms of what's to come for how big this industry and economy will be. And another good analogy is to, you think about mobile. So when Instagram got bought by Facebook for $1 billion, it was 18 months old. It had 30 million users, and people were like, wow, isn't it crazy that Facebook is spending $1 billion of cash to buy this new picture of camera application? The Apple could just add filters into their camera app and just kill Instagram. But then, it turned out to be an amazing acquisition, because Facebook's most valuable asset is now Instagram. They saw the opportunity of mobile. So, most people in the world, most companies, most leaders, they don't see yet the potential and possibility of tokens. So I guess our responsibility and our vision and our mission and our purpose behind Unit is to really bring the future and the value of tokens to the entire world.
And how many tokens have you helped launch? I mean, does that question make sense?
Yep. So there's about 200 tokens which have been issued on the Unit network at the moment.
Okay.
And we're launching our Unit Ventures program starting January. So 30 projects will go through our Ventures program in the first batch. Our second batch, we increase this to 100. And then we want to work to a point where it's 1,000 projects every batch. So our batches run for 3 months. We have 4 batches a year. So it's 1,000 times 4. So we expect to have 4,000 projects going through our Unit Ventures program every year. And we think that this will serve as a nice base for the entire token economy.
And do you also have like parameters about judging which token you want to actually help launch? And, are there rejections? I mean, I don't know if, so how do you really assess that? And what's your, what's your, like, say, checklist? How do I make it? So it's tomorrow. I can't be like, okay, I want to launch a token, so let's launch a Diksha token because I'm a content creator. And
it's a great idea. I think, if you launch a Diksha token, I would buy some, and I'd love to, support what you do and help it grow successful. And how do we tell, what is the underlying value of a Diksha token? There is this concept of a treasury. So, this concept of a treasury, it's really simple, but it's also super revolutionary, and nobody else has done it in the blockchain or token ecosystem. And it basically means that, if I have a Michael token and you have a Diksha token, and both of us have 1,000 tokens each, so Michael tokens, 1,000 Michael tokens, 1,000 Diksha tokens, 1,000 Yip tokens. If there's nothing in the treasury, it means that, if someone bought each of our tokens and, we kind of gave up on the token, or we ran away, they would lose 100% of whatever they bought. So if they bought it at $1 and there's $0 in the treasury, then, it would drop from $1 to 50 cents, to 40 to 30 to 20 to 10 to 5 to 0 effectively. But if there was $500 in the Diksha treasury, that means that at least the lowest price of the Diksha token is going to be 50 cents, meaning that, someone might pay $3 for it, they might pay $7, $20 for it. But if people start selling it, it won't drop below 50 cents because there's 1,000 Diksha tokens and there's $500. So it sounds very simple, put funds into a treasury. The treasury is providing this fundamental book value. But why it's super interesting is because then you can provide products and services, you can create lots of value for the world. And this is going to, generate profit, which you put into the treasury. And when your treasury value goes up, your floor price increases, and then your token price goes up. So it gives a level of, economic fundamentals. And for instance, if the Yip token has gone up 5 times in price, the two of us can go, wow, I understand why the Yip token has gone up so much in price, because Yip has done a really good job to build up her treasury, which is providing amazing products, amazing services, and this is generating profit, which she puts into the treasury. So I think this is super cool as a way of addressing and understanding how to value different tokens. Because currently, you can look at different coins and tokens on 2 popular sites, CoinMarketCap or CoinGecko, and you're like, wow, this project is worth tens of billions, this one's hundreds of millions, but there's no, like, as you say, parameter for assessing what is the underlying value that's being created or generated or backing up the token. But the Unit treasury really solves for that.
And the Unit treasury is centralized or decentralized?
Decentralized. So everything
Oh, wow.
which we're doing, what we're doing in Unit is with a Web 3.0 decentralized approach from day one. So
Okay.
we wouldn't be doing something if we couldn't move it to a point of complete decentralization, or it wouldn't. It would require a central actor. So, and the cool thing is, the Diksha treasury, you put these funds in the treasury, we don't have to trust you that, the money is there. It's held in digital assets. Once you put funds in there, the only people that can access it are myself and Yip, who own 10% of the Diksha tokens. So, if nobody buys these tokens from us, we can go to the treasury and claim 10% of the treasury and give back our 10% of tokens. So it really is an effective way of creating this floor price.
So great, Michael. I want to come back to your life in Indonesia and Bali that I'm very envious of. But before that, I'll have a little bit of chat with Yip as well. So, Yip, we were talking about Axie Infinity, and in one of the previous podcasts, we featured them, and they're a project from Vietnam on Play to Earn. And sort of that, it really, intrigued my interest in particularly Asia. That what are the kind of crypto projects or use cases that are in the Web3 economy that are coming from Asia. So do you think you'll be able to give us a sense of how far Asia is when it comes to crypto projects and innovation in Web3? And are there any interesting use cases that come to your mind?
So I think what will drive crypto adoption in the future is two things that Michael has already briefly mentioned. One is mobile adoption. So the moment everybody is on their mobiles and can do everything from the mobile, which is typically the younger population, the moment we have instant connectivity and adoption across all. So a few things that need to be solved there is just create ways for everyone to participate in internet, right? We are already having a few companies or organizations, projects coming up that provide decentralized internet, helping let's say, instead of having the unbanked only gain banking, also the unconnected to gain connectivity. So I think that's where you're going to see a lot of use cases, in particular looking at economies like Vietnam, where the average age is something around 25 years old. It's completely a different world than what you're seeing in Germany, where the average age is 45 years old. That's where I live at the moment, where we have very little crypto adoption. You look at the economies of the future, it's actually at a stage where people can learn actually in unit masters. We see that after 6 weeks of training, basic training, people are already going out and issuing their own tokens, are inspired to create their own tokens to launch their mom and pop businesses, right? One of the use cases or categories of use cases we have in unit economy is actually we provide tools for the long tail tokens, for people who want to go crypto native with very predictable businesses, businesses with predictable revenue streams come onto the token economy. So what you would see in the future is hopefully not too far away actually from the moment that we are speaking, that a restaurant in the neighborhood can provide a token service for their community. Others can create education services for their community. And it's small things that you will see popping up super, super fast in the emerging economies, not only talking about Asia, for example, we can also talk about Africa, where I've been last week, just spending a week teaching, startups about how to tap into the blockchain economy. What you're seeing is now people come back with thinking of how can we actually solve problems such as very, very high interest rates because of inefficient banking structures. How can we provide decentralized banking services? How can we provide collateralization, building on the existing social bank clubs that are run across different economies already in Southeast Asia with the microfinance lending clubs, or in Africa, we have a lot of these coming up. So overall, I think the bigger use cases we're seeing, apart from gaming in the metaverse, which Axie Infinity is already doing, it's great. We will see actually more fundamental use cases on the long tail token economy side.
Yeah. And if you have to say the top 3 use cases that you can vouch for, could I ask what would they be?
I'd be curious to see Michael, to hear what Michael was saying about that. I'm happy to add mine.
Most definitely. So I think, similar to the internet on the mobile, everything which was in the non-internet and non-mobile world moved to the internet. So, things like the newspaper, newspaper went online. shopping went online, education went online, art went online, travel went online. So every single industry went onto the internet. Same with the mobile. Every single industry went onto mobile. If it didn't have an app or there wasn't an app for it, then there's an opportunity to build an app for it. So it's the same with the token and blockchain world. If there isn't a decentralized app or a token for a particular industry or a particular business, then there is an opportunity. If there's a supermarket which is centrally owned and centrally run, it's an opportunity for you to create a supermarket which is decentralized in ownership and decentralized in the way it operates. So we think this is going to ignite so much innovation, and it's such a big opportunity. And we think we're very close to that. What it takes is just a few case studies, a few hundred case studies of projects which do this, and then people are going to go, wow, I'm going to do that too. I'm going to apply it to my existing business, and it's going to really transform.
Okay. And you second that, Yip?
Yeah, I'm quite, very optimistic about different layers of the tech stack. When you look at the security layer, like a base layer of technology, we will see hopefully in the future a lot of decentralized initiatives. Like I could imagine women run staking nodes, right? Like women in villages, for example, that come together, have a lending club and so on, and learn how to provide decentralized infrastructure in a way that is like generating income for them. And with that income, for example, they can then go and fund other small token economy projects using the unit chain. This is one of the use cases. The second use case, I think everything related to helping the gaming, the metaverse economy come to life. So what we're seeing is in the future, a lot of time, people will spend time in these VR, AR, mixed reality environments. And all of this needs like creators and so on. So a lot of people can already start to earn a living producing content. Like this is so important. It's not about consuming gaming, but being able to consume it and produce at the same time. So you can become a creator in that new economy and already play and earn, but also create and earn. And I think this is something, that will reduce a lot of inequities in the market, because right now, if you don't have education and you don't have proper training, all that is left for you is like not good revenue creating opportunities, right? And we can close that gap. And within the blockchain economy, like it's very, very easy to get into it and contribute from day one. We are still, and I think I would just want to add to that, when you asked earlier, how big is the market actually? The global, if you look at World Bank data, for example, the global stock market is 100 trillion. So if we have 2 to 3 trillion, like Michael said earlier, we had 2-3% of possible stock market. And then if you take into account all this inflation and so on, which is not incorporated in that, you can see that we have a lot of like 30x, 40x, 50x room to grow within the next very feasible time frame.
Yeah. Wow. I'm glad you spoke about, what did you say? Create and earn. And talking of create to earn, Michael, correct me if I'm wrong in this information, but I think you are based in Bali right now, correct? Okay, awesome. And I heard one of your interviews where you spoke about a sort of co-living village of artists and creators, and now we see a lot of artists and creators actually trying to understand blockchain and token and NFTs. So tell us about your groundwork there. Like, what are you trying to do with this co-living village, and is it something that is create and earn, related to create and earn?
Great question, Disha. So, if you think of fashion, many people think of Milan, they think of Paris. If people ask about, internet, they think of like Silicon Valley or San Francisco. Like with tokens, the blockchain, the crypto world, there isn't really a hub, it's kind of decentralized, So I guess what we're trying to do is building like the Silicon Valley for the blockchain crypto space and give people a glimpse of what the future society looks like, where, I meet someone like you, I meet someone like someone else, and I go, wow, she's so inspiring. I want to support her. How can I, invest in her? Or if someone doesn't have money, how can they do some work to get a piece of their future success and get a piece of the pie? So we want to show how, we're doing 2 village projects here. One of them will accommodate 3,500 or 4,000 people. The second one will accommodate between 35 to 40,000 people. We want to show how both of these essentially village and town can showcase what the future society looks like. So if you think of, imagine all of the apps that exist now, whether it's Uber or Airbnb or Wikipedia. Many of these things, now they're in lots of cities around the world. So what we're trying to do is imagine you were back in time and you built a way of a small case study or experiment of what Uber looked like for a small town. What Airbnb looked like for a small town. It's possible to do it all at the world at once, but we just want to show, for a community of 4,000 people, a community of 40,000 people, what it looks like to live and to operate within a token economy.
Yeah. So what exactly, how does this model of yours or experiment, I don't know if I can call that, really work, like in logistical way? Yeah.
It basically is a society where the ownership is distributed. So if you go to a restaurant, you can go onto your phone and buy into a piece of the restaurant. Or you meet someone who's an artist or someone who's a writer, you can find out what their token is and buy into a piece of them. So
Okay.
that is the distributed cooperative economy that Unit helps to power.
All right. Awesome. And so talking about Unit again, how far do you think you are in your mission of what you are trying to solve with Unit? And probably I think this is the question I should have asked a little bit earlier. But if you could explain the structure of what Unit is and mission you already spoke a bit about, but really what are your future plans with Unit?
So yeah, in terms of where we're at the moment and where we're going to be in the future, at the moment we're a team of 60 people. Our community is about 30,000 people with about 200 tokens issued. Our initiatives are going extremely well. We have 5 main initiatives: conferences, ventures, master's program, university and news. We are working towards having a few hundred case studies of token-based projects and building out hubs in lots of different cities. We are working on 50 different cities and 50 different industries, working on building teams within each of them. In terms of where we are at the moment relative to where we're going to be in the future. So our goal is, 7 billion people in the world having a token for themselves. We're at a moment now where there's 8,000 tokens that exist outside of Unit. There's about 200 tokens that exist within Unit. So, it might seem that we have a long way to go. Though I guess by 2025, we want to have, the early adopters, the 3, 4, 5% of society creating a token, buying into tokens, supporting tokens. And then what we expect is between 2025 and 2030 for everyone else in the world to either be creating tokens, buying into tokens, and that's when everyone else is going to catch up.
So, I'm curious, like you are from the VC world as well, right? You were working with venture capital and then you've been a founder yourself. And I particularly, when I talk to traditional VCs and, startups that have nothing to do with tokens or crypto, and it's something they just don't want to touch or invest in. So what has been your experience when you talk to that ecosystem of yours that you were a part of, or were you luckily part of people who were already early adopters of crypto? And I'm just trying to get a sense of, do you feel that we are getting out of the bubble and really traditional VCs are trying to understand?
I think still not. So I think we still need to cross over the chasm, the innovation chasm. And I think, the treasury is what's going to get, the serious investors of the world to understand tokens. Until we have this treasury, people are going to look at tokens and they're not going to get it. They're going to how can something which is a few months old be worth a few $100 million? They're going to be like, this is ridiculous. What is the product being sold? Where's the value coming from? You can't just create out thin air. You can't just pump it up and then dump it. It needs to have some real underlying fundamentals, and we're super confident because we think that Unit is going to help us there. And I speak to a lot of my friends who are super high profile entrepreneurs or investors, and they just look at this space and they go, like, it's just so disappointing. It's full of scams. There's so little substance, so little value created. But there are a few that are in the space which see the future. It's kind of like if you looked at the app ecosystem and you're like, wow, there's so many apps which people are downloading, but it's not making any money. Apps are getting crazy amount of valuation, but none of them have real business models. Or internet companies which are just hemorrhaging and wasting venture capital money. So we think that it's just a matter of time before the real projects emerge with underlying business models, products, and substance, which allows them to have long-term sustainability.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, particularly, I also feel that because I'm in touch with both sides. And, I mean, that's what also we at Ocean through this podcast are trying to do and, close that gap a bit and try to educate people around it. So, yeah, it's actually been a great conversation with you and Yip both. And on a closing note, I would ask you to leave us with like one message that we do with every guest per se, ideally related to, democratization of data, and one message that you want to leave and that you want people to take through this entire conversation.
Yeah, most definitely. So I would recommend creating a token, issuing a token or unit, building, an underlying economic model behind it. So a lot of people think that tokens should be like currencies. You don't have to back it by anything. You don't need a business model. I would, believe that every token is more like a stock or share, where it has to be providing products and services and have an economic model, because then it basically has the financial sustainability and economic sustainability to grow in the long run. Otherwise, people buy it skyrockets in value, and then people start selling it and then it drops, and then people are like, oh my gosh, it's the end, I lost so much money, and then the cycle repeats. So the cool thing about this treasury is it really allows for that long-term sustainability.
Okay. Thank you then, Michael. It was great talking to you, and we'll be in touch once we have probably a token for our podcast itself.
Yeah, please do it. I would love to, buy some and share with our community and, share with close advisors and friends. And really appreciate the kind of opportunity. Looking forward to